I'm your host, Mike Ruby, and this is our 50th episode of Be My Own Boss. It's been a good run. We're looking for 50 more. First, I want to very briefly thank three people who have made it possible for us to get this far. First is Steve Johnson, host of Rideshare Rodeo out of Denver, Colorado, a very popular podcast. The second is Ron Banks in Boston, Massachusetts and metro area. Always there, sends us great video statements supporting self-employment, and we're very appreciative of those, and has good advice and encouragement at all times. Third is Traveler 7210, working out of upstate New York, one of our loyal supporters, always happy to give feedback. Tell me maybe if the sound is missing or if he can't see us, something is. Traveler helps us all the time. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to the next 50 with you. Okay, here's the payload. Last episode, number 49, we discussed the major flaw in labor law, which is that there is no objective test in the law for who's a self-employer and who's an employee. No objective test of independent contracting. No objective test of who wants to be self-employed. And that's a major shortfall, and we discussed the problems that it has. Episode 50 today, we want to talk about another equally severe problem in labor law. You will not hear this anywhere else. Nobody else talks about it. Labor regulation in the United States that affects independent contractors is regulating the wrong responsibility. Yes, 87 years of the Fair Labor Standards Act has seen labor regulators regulating the relationship between the independent contractor and his or her client, between the buyer and the seller. And that has seemed logical to them for their purposes, but it is certainly not logical for ours, because every independent contractor knows that in order to get there, they had to make a commitment to doing short-term work, limited scale projects, deliver results for their clients, and then when the project is over, the relationship is over. Now, they may be friends, they may be promises of more, there may be we'll consider it or we'll refer you onwards, all kinds of things. But the crucial relationship that should be in labor law is between the individual and their willingness and eagerness to work on short projects that they are going to put together all in a kind of into a career and drive it in the direction that they want to drive it. The wishes of the individual with those cannot be detected in labor law given those two flaws. So one of our major pushes for the coming year and until we get it is going to be the ability of creating the ability in law for self-employers to register their choice to take responsibility for these limited projects. Essentially, it's not a person-per-person thing that the relationship that the Labor Department should be working on. It really has to be, does the person want this work? And the best way to detect that is to ask them. And that has never been present in labor law in 87 years. No fooling. They want to be their own supervisor. They just want to deliver the work. Sure, they may get help to do it. Whatever's in the contract, whenever the work is, they don't want to be fussed with in terms of how the job gets done. They just want the ability to do it. And they want permission. They don't want their clients to be punished for contracting with them. So that's a major step. While we talk about contracting, it's a good opportunity Once are your own boss, you can write your own contract. That shocks a number of people, even experienced freelancers. You do not have to work only under the buyer's contract. You are welcome to supply your own. Many big companies say we only buy this way. You've got to buy on our contract. But if you push, and if you've got a good reason, and if it's worthwhile, they will very often adjust their standard terms. That's what they call them. You've got to sign our standard terms. Well, the truth is they often change those standard terms with a coda or an appendix or something, an extra agreement. So, but being able to write the contract yourself is really the ideal way to live. Once you get the hang of it and can write this contract, you're going to love it. If you're not doing it now, if you are doing it, you know what I mean. Like, hey, they work under my contract. There's no way I'm their employee. So a lot of you I know are in driving and delivery. The size of the platforms, not just Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and whatever it is, the other ones, Curry. Not all of those. Those drivers are a minority of the overall size of the overall independent contractor population, and the big companies just have to go with bulk agreements, standard terms and all that. But they could write different agreements for different market segments. And boy, this is something I wish they'd try out publicly, because I think it would make a lot of people happier. We can talk about this in a future episode if that's of interest to everybody. But anyway, dealing with the contracts and the big platforms is really a separate issue from the gaps, the flaws that are in labor law. So, wrapping up the problem so far, the lack of an objective test means that what the Labor Department is doing is applying a subjective test, and nobody understands it. You can't predict it. No attorney will say, here's what's going to happen, unless it's bad news. And even then, they're not sure. A client can't know for sure what's going to happen, and the independent contractor is not sure that he can base his ability to get work on whether the government's just going to outlaw his work permanently through the regulatory process. So we've got to get rid of the subjectiveness, and we've got to get rid of no ability of self-determination for independent contractors. So, not wrong test, applied to the wrong relationship. If you're beginning to see what's going on here, then you're catching on. This is effectively a scam on the American working population. If the independent contractors could all be separated out into a separate population, dealt with as self-employers, then everybody else is an employee, and large buyers or small buyers won't be tempted to try to reclassify someone who wants to be an employee as an independent contractor. So if you're beginning to see that all this is a lot of what passes for labor law is simply false, welcome aboard. This is going to be a good run. We're going to have an excellent next 50, and I'll pause here in the. I don't see any questions yet. So if you have questions, please be sure to put them in the comments, and we'll get to them, and we'll do our best to answer them. Please like the episode. Follow us on YouTube, and sign up to subscribe so that we can send you the announcements of our next programs. So with that, I'm going to say thanks. By the way, the Fair Labor Standards Act is going to be 87 years old next Wednesday, so we'll probably should have a commemorative program to talk about that. So with that, I'll say thanks. Thanks for the 50. Thanks for the good times, and we'll see you next episode.